Welcome to Trade Secrets, episode number 15. Looking forward to a very interesting day today. As you know, we usually talk about a current event, we talk about a real estate topic, and we talk about bourbon. So there's a good story about the bourbon, which we'll not lead with. The current event was supposed to be debates. And when I say debates, I mean political debates that happened most recently here in the state of Pennsylvania to decide who's going to win the elections in a couple weeks, which is probably when this podcast will be released. And admittedly, for anybody who knows me, this will not be surprising. We have shifted gears a little bit because the debate was not a debate. And more than welcome for both of you to chime in about that part of it, not the discussion that was had. But it literally...
There was no discussion
It's
had.
not a debate. It is absolutely not a debate.
It was just like a very stressful, like you have 30 seconds, you have 15 seconds. Like who can even get out?
But I do think that that's how debating
like
works, like in high
15
school and
seconds.
college and stuff, like debate teams, that's how it works. But there is no accountability for the question that was asked. Zero. And I know you love debate. So how do you deal with that when there's no accountability?
Well, okay, couple of things.
Yeah.
Okay. First thing is, I suggest you watch the entire process. Now,
The process or the debate?
the debate itself.
Okay.
I watched the
did.
whole
Yeah,
thing and I
because-
was in near physical pain.
Right, and
the
I
whole time. It was
understand
like
that.
watching the
I
worst
understand that.
karaoke I've ever witnessed.
I
felt uncomfortable for the people.
Okay, first of all, yeah, I agree. Yesterday was it was a horrible.
And
it was a debacle.
Let the record
just,
be known. I only watched this because they forced me to watch this.
Well, that was
Oh my gosh.
originally that we thought the idea that maybe this would be a good
segue into like
good
macroeconomic
segue into,
issues and real estate, et
topics
cetera.
of, and it's a very important decision that the voting public will be making because this technically is control of the Senate. At least this is a good
You mean
deal of that.
potentially control?
Potentially.
Right.
Okay, it's one of the swing states that they
Yeah.
figure out that this is going to
Potentially
have an
control.
impact on who has the majority control of the Senate. So anyways.
And to Michael's defense, I was in Dallas last week for a conference, and there were people legitimately asking me about this race. I was like, man, you people, you are really invested. God bless you. I love it. I love that there are people who are that invested in our country.
Well,
Well,
I
It's really important.
I don't think
Podcast.
there's any other thing to
Right.
be than completely invested in
I
your
was
country.
going to
I get
say,
it.
I mean, this is where Michael and I are on the same page, or reading the same book, is that I listened to a podcast recently that said the polarization, like, people were pushing for the polarization, and if the people in the middle get so disenchanted by the polarization, we will end up being like an extremist democracy. So it's really like the people like you or the people that are in like the middle ground, like it's very dangerous or a risk to be like, I don't mess with any of that. Like it's a bunch of like lunatics just yelling at each other across the void and not working together on anything. But like you are the exact demographic that like we need to still get involved and participate in this to balance out like, and not that like you or I are extremists, but like to balance out like the rest of us or the other people that are on the other sides of the void screaming. So,
I literally thought to myself last night watching this, if I were the candidate and I actually answered the person's question, would that be productive or unproductive? Because based on the last few years of debates that I have watched until I get sick to my stomach, like, would it actually benefit the person running to actually answer the questions? I mean, I don't know that. That's an
It's funny.
honest question.
'Cause
My utopian answer is in a perfect world with an educated voting base, I think yes. I think that the person who stands up there and is completely honest about these are the positions that I stand on. This is my platform. I think that's perfect. Unfortunately, one of the problems of the political process that we have, in addition to the politicians themselves, is how it gets interpreted, and that's complete media.
Right.
Okay, and then the third part that makes it a little bit difficult is the people that are disinterested voters. They're the people that really aren't completely passionate about their civic duties. These are the people that will make decisions about the rest of what this country is going to be, how we're going to move forward.
But do you think that they are passionate? Like, had I listened to two people answer the questions last night, I might have been like, wow, I'll actually vote for somebody.
Well, that's the thing. That's where, like, I get really frustrated with, like, political strategists, because I think it almost seems like you can hear the coached responses from it's almost like they work harder to not answer the question than just to answer the question. And it's like a
Agreed.
political strategist behind the scenes saying, like, here's how you need to frame this, or here's what you, like, it's like a game of taboo. Like, here's 3 words you definitely cannot say when you answer.
No, it's more
one
like,
of them's
here's
yes,
no.
one of them's no.
Here's the only 3 words you're allowed to say.
No,
Yeah.
it's rehearsed.
Here are your buzzwords,
it's
and here's what
framed,
you can't say.
And it's intentionally
It's-
misleading.
It's show business for ugly people. That's what I heard once, and that's the most honest thing I've ever heard.
Do you know who, you're going to hate it when I tell you who said that quote?
I mean,
Rush Limbaugh said that. Politics is show business for ugly people.
well, one of the more honest things he probably ever uttered.
No, it's a terrible format, but unfortunately.
But the format's not the problem.
Oh no, it's the format is the problem. The format is exactly what you're saying. You have to have a length of time. You have to be able to hold them account. We asked you a question. You have to answer this question. Okay, and it's fit into a window of time frame for television.
Right.
It's agreed to by the moderators, but more importantly, it's agreed to by both campaigns.
And I think that format's great.
I think they should arm the audience with like 3 dozen eggs, and if they don't like the answer, you get to throw eggs at
That
the
would be
candidate.
fantastic.
Let's up the ante
Somehow,
here.
I don't think that is the best solution that I would go to.
I think that would be.
Go to
I
the
would watch
plate
every
with.
debate.
But think
Right.
about it. If our clients asked us a question and we just told them something that had nothing to do with the question,
They would no longer be our clients.
we'd be out of business.
Yeah.
But there are people, like I say it all the time, like, that person talks a lot but says nothing. Like, you encounter them all the time. Like, they sound good, they seem confident, but they aren't saying shit. And
Which is different,
and
though.
it's-
They're at least trying to answer the question. They're just really good, like they could sell ice to an Eskimo. But these guys or gals, they legitimately don't answer the question, and then the moderator calls them on it, and they still don't answer it, and then they just move on. They're like,
they all like
Yeah,
giggle.
well,
They're like,
and-
okay,
yeah,
you're right.
yeah, and I think that is.
Sorry
one
for
of the
pressing
things
you.
that-
You're only running for
I
public
truly
office.
think that one of the problems
God
with
bless America.
how these guys are held to account is that you get them in a place where they have nowhere else to go, and they have to actually converse with you. They have to give you the dialogue to tell you this is what our platform is. And you'll ask them the first question, and you'll ask them the second question, then you let them off the hook. Because every question leads to another question. You know, they just don't let them to find out exactly what is it. Tell me about what your actual thoughts on this. What is your backbone on this particular issue?
they never ask them for the backbone.
They never push them to that point, and that goes back to my issues with the media. Obviously, I'm the
as a separate
conservative
side
here.
note, I was listening to like a philosophy podcast this morning on my drive because I am just utterly tapped out of listening to news and BS about the primaries coming up. And in this particular episode of this philosophy podcast, they were talking about the Sophites, which I can't tell you what time period they were in, but it was like one particular city-state in Greece was something that caught on there, and the Sophites were known for being just like kind of intense, kind of aggressive, like, and their fundamental belief was that every man has his own truth. Like, a fact to one man is not a fact to another man is not a fact to another man. I was like, they were probably right.
100% they were right.
There is no like one supreme fact. There is nothing absolute. Like, one man's truth and one man's fact sounds like an egregious lie to
Heresy.
another person. And I was like, oh, I witnessed this live and in the flesh last night.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I don't.
just wild.
And I don't. up to speed on the SOFITE philosophy.
I wasn't
but-
either until this morning.
But there is a truth that's there. There are perspectives of, this is how I see it, this is my version of it, this is my point of view.
That's
Yeah.
a debate, though.
That's
That
different.
is- that is the
this
true
belief,
debate, to seek the truth.
Yeah, this philosophical viewpoint was like every man has their own facts, their own, and you can't like stay in your lane with your own facts.
Her point
because
is
no
that
one
some
else
people
is
would
gonna
argue
ever,
that 2 plus
To
2 doesn't
highlight,
equal 4.
to highlight the absurdity by the absurd is to say there's males and females, and now there's something that isn't.
Oh
that.
Jesus!
Oh boy, we're
So that's not-
what's
that's
the-
not- no,
what's
but
the-
Yeah,
that's
what's
the
our
point.
tap out? Do we have
Tap
a safe
out is
word?
bourbon.
No,
Pineapple.
Nelson.
Pineapple.
No, that's
Nelson.
well, you can't. You cannot if you're talking about.
Oh, stay
You
tuned
cannot-
for the
Pull the
next
red cord.
episode.
You-
Pull the
you-
red cord.
If you're saying that you can't have those two facts, that's
Well,
Oh my God!
anyways,
Take
we
it
are
back. Go
totally
somewhere
not
else.
going down that path. When we started the podcast, if you go back to episode 1, we said if we ever needed to get back on the rails, we would go back to bourbon. So we're going to go back to bourbon. Needless to say, we all agree,
I
debating.
wasn't off the rails. Someone chose to take a different turnoff.
We were off the rails. So we're back to Nelson Brothers.
Again, your fact is different than our facts.
Oh my lord. You
Our?
two just keep going. Nelson Brothers classic bourbon.
So wait, you have a story for this bourbon?
How the heck did we get it?
I
it's
just
a good
brought
story.
it into the office.
I know,
from
but-
the back seat of my car 10 minutes ago.
Oh my God.
What's the story?
So we have found as a group that we love one bourbon, Bradshaw. You went to the store to get that, and then we ended up with this.
Oh, your definition of a good story is different than my definition.
Did
Yeah,
it get
I
us
was
back
just
on the rails or what?
looking for a bourbon, and I was looking for the Bradshaw bourbon, and the lovely lady at the Strip District Terminal liquor store, she was like, "Well, let me show you some other ones that I
Fine
really
wine and
like."
spirits, to be
Yeah.
exact.
So she was really. That's the first time anyone in a liquor store has actually approached me and tried to like make suggestions or be helpful.
What
So
liquor
shout
stores do
out
you
to
go
her.
to?
Apparently, liquor stores and not fine wine and spirit stores.
It's the only place that sells liquor in Pennsylvania. But anyways,
So yeah, I mean that's the story. She was just like, "Oh, well, if you like that, you should try this."
yeah. And she said you
Here
should
we are.
try one of 2,
Yeah.
and you picked this one. Why?
Just
Fate.
because I didn't want to spend $150 buying 3, so I bought Bradshaw because I knew I'd like it, and then I bought that to see if I'd like it.
Gotcha.
I was just hedging my bets.
And do we like it?
That's okay.
Yeah.
Just
Do
okay?
you like it?
I love it.
You love it.
I love it. This
I,
is
I
on
think
my
it's
new
very
to
similar to the Bradshaw.
go. Yeah, this is on my new to go
One
list.
man's truth can be another man's maybe.
Now we're being totally philosophical. Oh my gosh. This is off the rails. But we're going to stay off the rails. We were interested. Oh, look, she's like,
I'm roasting.
we were going to do debates, which then we're going to lead into the real estate reality of macroeconomics and financing and inflation and interest rates and the lack of bank confidence in the U.S. right now. But instead,
Seasonal depression's already a thing, so we're gonna go a
Yes.
different direction.
so we're going to go a different direction. And as you guys know who've watched, Paige is in year 3 of the business. Almost year 3.
Well, I guess.
You're in the middle of year 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just got back from a conference with 1,000 real estate professionals. Most of them, probably 70%, were in year 20 plus, but a good 30% were in years 5 or less. And it was fascinating because for my whole career, it's always been people in the industry for, 30 years or more, and then like 5% of the people who are in the industry for a hot minute. I still feel like when I walk in the room, I'm one of the youngest people in the room, which is really weird because we've been doing this for 20 years, so I shouldn't feel like the youngest person in the room. But over the last few weeks, we've had some serious, roller coaster experiences, and let's like, let's talk about what it's like being 3 years in a business that holds nothing back, right?
Right. Yeah. That's yeah. So
Not for the faint of heart.
right. And it's like you have to like you can't get too high on the highs and you can't go too low on the lows, and then in the middle of it you just have to try not to die inside.
Well, hopefully it's not exactly dying inside, but yeah, talk to us about like what's it been like to experience the highs of the highs. Like we do things that like we are transforming the landscape, transforming the skyline in some perspective. And that doesn't mean to be boastful. It's just our clients are doing things that legitimately transform the skyline. But then we also experience the lows of we do a lot of work on projects that nobody ever knows about, nobody ever hears about, and oh, by the way, they never happen.
Yeah. I mean, and that's I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I have like anything insightful to say here. I think it's being a new person in the industry, like I think that's a cyclical thing. And I think that the two of you have been in the industry long enough to understand that it's cyclical, and even though you might, be working on 4 things for the past year that all fall through in the same month or 2 months, like the two of you understand that that's a low and maybe there's a high to come back around. And I have not been in this long enough to understand, like to trust in that being cyclical. So I think that's
But cyclical, like when I hear cyclical, I think of like by the year, like the seasons are cyclical. Like
I think part of your reason
Yeah.
you say cyclical is because you have 20 years of experience.
Right.
And you've
Right,
gone
and
through 20
there's, like-
cycles, whereas
But that's what I was asking. Like, what does cyclical mean to you in
Well, I
this
think there's
context?
multiple definitions. I mean, I think it's, in terms of even like working with a client, they can be like really gung ho about a project, and then their interest can wane, and then something can happen and can get put on hold, and then it comes back and they're hot to trot, and it's that in every project is cyclical. I would maybe not everyone, but
Yeah, I was
some
just
of the
looking to
longer term
understand
ones.
what cyclical
But
meant.
and then also like in over the course of a career, like you're going to have highs and lows, and like as you go through economic cycles where interest rates drop drastically and it's gangbusters for a while because the cost of capital is so low, and people are investing in real estate left and right, and people are that is one cyclical thing. And then now you see interest rates that have climbed almost 2 points, 2.5 points, where I don't even know.
200 or 300 basis points.
Yeah, in a
They've
matter
doubled.
of 4 months, 5 months.
Right.
well, not in
So-
5 months. In 5 months, they've gone up 2.25. 5 months,
Right.
they've gone up close to 3 points.
Yeah.
300
So,
basis
and
points.
now we're seeing the opposite, where now the cost of capital is so high that people are not wanting to have to take out any loans to improve property or to purchase property.
But
So,
more
like, that's
importantly,
cyclical
maybe
also.
they can't, right? But like, how's that
Right.
experience been
Or the
for you?
the
Like on
numbers
the
just
front
don't crunch.
lines, like in 30 days, you've experienced 3 projects that have gone from significant revenue generators to
Or what would have been, like they
Yeah.
were probably on like the 5-yard line to gone.
yeah. So mindset was these are closing, this money is real. To this is now gone. Like it's not a it's almost like at the McDonald's or the Wendy's, somebody showed up in the drive-thru and was like, I'd like 15 cheeseburgers and a Big Mac and a big Coke or whatever. And then by the time
And
they
the staff
got
makes all the food.
yeah, they make all the food.
And then they get to the window, they're like, JK.
Well, no, they
But
even
it's the
get
same
hold on.
thing.
No, they even get to the window, the first window, and they give the money. And then they get to the second window and they're like, just kidding. I don't want those 15 cheeseburgers or the Big Mac or the pop, but I want my money back.
Yeah,
Like-
well, I mean, having worked in food service is different because I would have jumped out the window and punched him in the face. All these circumstances that we're facing now with clients or, you know, potential purchasers of clients' property, it's understandable. I mean, 5 episodes ago, I was real gung-ho about buying a car, and now I'm like, I definitely don't want to take out a loan because we're now looking at like 7% interest rates. So I get it. And I know, like, I don't want to say I know, but in these circumstances, when that is the rationale for someone backing out of a project, it's easier not to take it super personally. Like, it sucks, and it, like, definitely takes the wind out of your sails, but it's not like, oh, man, I really suck at this. I should do better. It's just how things go sometimes.
Well, that's spectacular that you're seeing it that way, because your evaluation of buying a car versus someone else investing in real estate because of the cost of your money is different. And there was something that was completely out of your control.
Right.
Well, it's not just the cost of her money, it's the reality that we live in an industry where when things happen, there is more money to be spent.
But there's a
Right.
decision
Or more
that
money
was
that
made.
they're going to not spend.
Right, there's a decision to be
Not enough
made that
personal money.
I value my money to do this versus that. That's and these are the things that every one of us has gone through this. I did it a lot longer ago than Kevin did, and obviously you're just starting. But every one of us has gone through these times where what is going on and what am I experiencing right now because of the other things that are around me? And that affects all the markets that we deal in. So deals have fallen apart forever. Okay, and then so you have the issue of these are the issues with my industry, and these are the issues with the economy, and these are the other things that are just completely out of my control, and they all factor into one thing.
And by the way, all the things going on in my life.
All the things going. I didn't even mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
know,
I mean, let's just drink some bourbon and
Well,
take some
think of just during the course of times of what, the differences in your life. Okay, my children are gone. Okay, my
bring
wife
in the
and I
puppies. We just all need puppies.
My wife and I are considering, what are we going to do in our, our golden years? You have ages, 4 through
No, they're like 8 through 15 now.
8 through 15?
7 through 14.
7 through 14?
Yes, I have 4 kids. It's
See, when you
intense.
get older, you get dementia. So that's another important thing.
But we are living three
Different times.
parts of the spectrum
Yeah.
and have 3 different appreciations for what it's all about.
Different perspectives of what is happening right now. Different perspectives of, have I seen this before? Can you look back and say economically and as far as financially, not financially on your part, but financially globally, have you experienced any of this before?
Yes,
Okay.
both personally and macro.
How many times? Because this is my third.
Personally, this would be my 3rd, assuming things, spiral out of
And
control.
I'm missing one.
I don't feel like they're going to. Maybe I'm optimistic with rosy colored glasses, but
Rosy colored glasses.
but macro level at maybe 1.5 times.
Yeah.
But one time, I wish I could go back. So, the Great Financial Crisis. I'm 7 years in the business.
Which one was the great?
2008.
Yeah, 2008-9.
Oh, Lord.
I
I was going to go back to the
And
the first gas crisis.
said Great Financial, not gas. I think that's actually a
Not
thing.
the Great
People call it
Depression.
that.
I think it was the Great Recession.
No, the grapes of wrath, I
Right.
think you were leaning towards.
Yeah, if I could go back in time and know what I know now,
Sure.
good God, how great things would have been
But
in terms of my resilience and understanding what the good outcomes would have been.
yeah, now I know it's going to be hard for you to understand this or accept it.
He doesn't mean it like grandfather,
No.
I promise
No,
you.
I do exactly.
He's
I
It
do
totally-
mean
just
it
made
that
me think of
because
a
you
video.
said
It just made me think of a thing I saw on Instagram that I sent to Kelsey last week, and as soon as I thought about that video, I had to laugh out loud.
No, but it's one of those things that you're going to fall back on it, and it's a learning experience, and you're going to understand how to deal with it because you've seen it before. It's something that this is happening again, and I'm watching this, and unfortunately, right now you're living through it most likely in the real estate industry for the first time. But it's not the first time it's ever happened.
But what's wild is this isn't even about that yet, because I don't think the quote unquote recession that everybody's predicting has happened. I mean, business has been very good for us. It continues to be good. Our clients are thriving. This is more just about the reality of working really hard, in the example of they order the food, they pay for the food, they get to the takeout window and they say, we don't want the food anymore,
We want
and
our
we're
money
ready
back.
to walk away.
Yeah, I mean, again, I used to work in hospitality, so like this, that was like the most thankless thing ever. So this, like, it's a bummer, but again, like,
But it has, it has definitely impacted you.
yeah, but like I don't fault anyone for. I mean, it's just like you just keep going. Like, what are you gonna do? It's like,
no, you've solved the problem then, because that's what you do. You keep going.
yeah,
You know, everyone faces adversity, everyone faces loss, and loss makes you better. What can
Yeah.
I do that, you look back and say, what would have made me better? What could I have done differently? What would have made me better in this situation? And maybe there's nothing, maybe you would have done exactly the same thing, but then it's something that you can go fall back on.
Well, and that's the thing. Like in these scenarios, like, you know, the ones where it was like our clients that, you know, pulled back or whatever. I've always said, like, I never want to be a salesperson. Like, I don't want to try to talk someone into doing something that's not the right thing for them. So, like,
That's good, because that's
Which is great, because
fundamental.
that's not what we
That's a
do.
great,
right, but so, like, I don't, like, yeah, it sucks, but it sucks for them too, having to back out of it.
Right.
So, like, I'm not, like, lamenting, like, woe is me, like, we lost this, we lost that. Like, it just happens. I
No,
mean,
but
things.
like anything, you
Like,
adopt
is
a
there a
project.
certain
that you-
answer I'm supposed to have here?
No, I'm
No,
just,
Okay.
no,
No,
this is,
I said to my wife last night, like, I wish I could go back in time. And we actually then talked about it again this morning on our morning walk. Like, what was it like living with me? Living what Paige is now living. Like, legitimately, I don't know what I was like, because I could not have been anything other than totally unstable.
Yeah.
God, that's a very interesting
that
question to ask
registers.
your wife.
I did. And she could not remember. Like, I mean, the 4 kids might have something to do with that. Like, there's been a lot lost.
She's seen some shit.
Well, and we've both, like, been obviously through a lot, just professionally, personally. But I literally was trying to think, like, year 3, it was a complete mess. Even in year 7, it was a total mess.
Cool.
Well, that's one of my questions. But at the same time, it's been so incredible. And I'm just like, I would love, and we are clearly diving into what it's like living it firsthand right now. Because you have like so many highs going on. You're like involved in all these organizations, and you're running, arguably, you know more people in this town than I do, or Michael does. And we have like so many great things going on with so many clients, but at the same time, in a very short period of time, a few things have fallen by the wayside. So it is a roller coaster, and I just think it's fascinating to
And again, I mean,
talk about it. And I wish I could go back.
But like your first several years in the
Yeah.
industry, like you didn't have like a salary to cushion that blow. Like we talked about this earlier this week. Like I would not be in this industry if my risk weren't mitigated by way of being a salaried employee for Totum. So that, and also because even if it weren't for like the financial obligations I had in my personal life before I came to Totum, I know like I am a fairly risk averse person because I don't always cope with stress in the healthiest ways. So I would have never been able to like jump into this industry with like a startup loan that I had to pay back and worrying about closing a deal. Like it's not like those deals were the only way that I was gonna like pay my mortgage and put food on the table or be able to like go to travel to see family during the holidays. Like that's, so it sucks. Like it sucks, but for me, and like, it sucks. But it's also like, it's humbling, and I think it like does reinforce like the grind that has to happen, which is kind of exhausting to think about, because like as hard as you work through some of those months, it's never hard enough because all of that stuff could just disappear.
Right.
So that's kind of bleak, but it's
Which-
just,
but
I
keep-
mean,
Which
Going,
has
you
to
were-
be, which has to be stated, that the model that we work under, okay, with the compensation model
I feel like
versus,
I'm really heavy breathing a lot and
This
like
might
yelling
be a
into the
first.
You're being-
microphone, and I really
Paige
need more
reached
bourbon.
for the bottle.
bring out the Klieg lights on her. No, but I mean, you were a draw, under the draw scenario, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I was a
I
draw
was.
scenario kind of guy.
24K a year.
Yeah, it was just
Pay
like,
it back
you
and then
have to
hope for the
pay it
best.
back and hope for the best, and that was a little bit more, and it kind of segues into how other firms are so built on that transactional model and away from the advisory model. And as you said, I never wanted to be a salesperson. I always wanted to be someone who actually counseled people. Well, that's the difference in the approach right there. So I think it's a huge thing to be able to go down the road and learn from that experience of, okay, this didn't go the way we wanted it to go, or this was a project that we're working on and we decided to change at the end. That helps.
Well,
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
the
lot.
thing. Like nothing is, and I mean, I don't even think it's just this industry. Like, but like nothing's guaranteed. Like you can have the best feelings in the world about something, and at the 11th hour, like the rug's just pulled out from under you. So I think it is like a lesson in resilience, and I'm sure at some point when I have like a slightly more rosy outlook on things, like it will motivate me to work all that much harder. Because it's at any given point in time, like you could go from a full pipeline to like oh shit, I have like maybe one thing that'll close between now and the end of the year. And it's, again, it's not even about like the financial repercussions of that, because I would argue that, and not, again, because I'm like crushing it, but there are a lot of people in this industry that don't have the luxury of that cushion. So like I can't complain about losing those deals. Like, feel kind of bad for you because you have still have to pay me. But I mean,
And I'm happy to, because
I won't
there's-
complain about about losing out on that commission. But realizing that as hard as you work in this industry, you could always work harder, and you should always be working harder. But I guess that's another thing. Like, I don't know how to reconcile that just yet with like a healthy like balance of personal life outside. So that's I don't know.
Yeah,
You have
that's-
4 kids though, so it's doable.
But it's a reality. Like it's a difficult thing, and I have very honestly thought to myself, am I ruining Paige by having her in an environment unlike the environment either of us grew up in? I mean, I'm in Dallas last week. All of my peers are like, dude, 100, 500, 300 phone calls a week. If they don't make it after 90 days, they're out. If they don't make it after a year, they're out. If they don't close deals, they don't get paid. And, I mean, sadly, it is the world I grew up in.
But it's not the world we're in today. It's not the world that we're in with Totum Realty Advisors.
No,
And
right.
it's like you should
It's
want to
totally
make
not
that
the
a better
world.
place. Like even like if I lived through that level of stress and
Right.
pressure, like if I lived through it, I would never want to do that to someone else.
Right.
Like everyone who even hears that knows that that's shit. Like
Right.
that's no good. That no one enjoys doing that. No one. So like I just don't understand like the pride that some people take that they're like,
Right.
we make our first years make 600 calls a week. Well, that sounds terrible, and they probably hate working for you. Like,
And make no mistake about it. I read something awesome the other day that said, don't look at the people around you as like where they're at today. Like look at them as to where your expectations of them are. And make no mistake about it, Michael and I think you will dominate this town, and not just this town, this industry. Which is why I think this is all so fascinating that this is all like coming together in the sense that I'm in Dallas hearing all this crazy stuff. We've got deals that go sideways. You're 3 years in the business. We're recruiting people who were 1 year in the business, 20 year in the business. Like it's all a very interesting like cocktail that we're not going to solve on this podcast. But I thought last night once the debate went sideways, I was like, let's just talk about where it is to be.
Let's talk about Paige's spiral.
No, it's not a
No,
spiral.
it's not a spiral. You know what it is? It's gestation. It's your learning experience.
I'm going to turn into a butterfly soon.
Well, that's what happens. You do start off as larva, which is really disgusting.
The
But
thick
no.
caterpillar right now.
No, but the things, you're not going to realize this. You know, a lot of things, I'm saying this as a former teacher, a lot of the things that you actually conveyed to your students at a certain age, they don't get for a couple of years. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, Jesus, that fat guy was pretty, he was pretty smart. It's something that you're learning so much and can convey those to your clients, to the people that we provide advice to, so that they know that they can count on you. And after you have built this up for a longer period of time, you're going to realize that the peers that you started out with are no longer peers because you've just advanced beyond
Well,
where they
because
are.
someone made them call 600 people in 1 week and they got burnt out. And meanwhile,
No.
like, that's the thing. Like, that's what
Not
that's what
necess-
doesn't sit well with
But
me.
some
is
of
like,
them won't.
But some of them won't. Some of them will be
But
just
some of them
as.
won't.
But they'll all.
Then they'll
fall
make
under
somebody
the-
else call 600
They'll
people.
fall under the calling 600 other people, and then I think at the end of the day, personally, their clients will not be getting the same
That's what I'm
service
saying.
that
If
you
you're
give
calling
them.
600 people, like, where do you have time to learn and improve on your craft? Like, if from day one in this industry you were just dialing for dollars, like, where do you have time to step back and understand the fundamentals and like improve your knowledge base
So,
in this industry?
Talk to us about time management. Like,
I'm not your girl
no, you
for
are.
that.
Because you just brought up a really real situation. You are managing your home life.
Mm-hmm.
You're managing networking. You're managing making sure that you understand who the people in the industry are.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say networking, not just networking externally, but networking internally in the industry. You're on multiple boards or designations, like trying to stay connected. You're trying to learn. We talked last episode about CCIM. You're trying to service clients. You're trying to reach out for people. Like, how is time management 3 years in the business, and in a business that you could work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until you're 20 years in or 40 years in, and you would never, ever fix it all?
Yeah, and that's like another thing. Like, I have never wanted to be a salesperson, and I have also never wanted to be like a martyr that just works
Right?
constantly. Like, I have definitely been the person before in life where I put like work first and all these other things first, and then like I'm in shambles, and then everything else falls out around that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have always been, and like Michael probably thinks I'm soft, but I've always been a strong advocate for like, at some point, and Kelsey, just listen in on this one, but at some point, like, you do have to disconnect, and you do have to take time for yourself, and you have to like regroup and understand that work isn't life, even though in this industry, like, you never stop working, like, ever. I mean, I no longer just drive down the road, even if I'm going on a road trip. I no longer just drive down the road like thoughtless in my brain. Like, I'm looking at the real estate.
And do you love that or hate it?
Sometimes I wish I could turn it off because it gets exhausting. Because then it segues to like thoughts about what you're working on and projects that you're working on and how you're gonna grow and improve in the industry. So like there are definitely times. I mean, I'm fascinated by like when I go into different cities. Like I want to understand the real estate landscape, but there are also times where like just like put me on a mountain where there's no cell service and no buildings so that I can like woosah and like recharge and just like clear out my brain.
Right.
So, you know,
I don't. Foreshadowing. That doesn't go away.
I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I will be the person that will work 18-hour days just relentlessly. Like I don't know if I'm physically capable of doing that and like keeping everything else together, but that's why I think you have to like work smarter and not harder. You know, I want to get better at what I'm doing so that the things I do take less time and I can do more in a day. And that's going back to like that's why that doesn't jive with me. Like I feel very strongly that if you're going to call and represent yourself and your team as a real estate professional, you have to know what the hell you're talking about. So like 600 calls don't mean anything if a person answers on the other line and you sound like an idiot.
Or 600 calls doesn't mean anything if you're not talking to the right person. You know, you there's another part of that. It's the generational thing, the way you look at the world versus, let's just say, the way I look at the world. You know, when I started off at your age, everyone wore suits and ties. You know, casual day was Saturday. You know, so
is this about what I was wearing in the office last Thursday?
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with that.
I wore jeans to a meeting yesterday.
But that's
totally unbeknownst to me.
That's not how you started off in the business, though.
No way. I was very uncomfortable.
I have to break for this because I walked into the office last week. I just needed to get my charger. I wasn't staying here. I was not seeing clients. And Michael comes out and he looks at me and goes, "Oh, looks like you're about to do some home improvement."
She was dressed like she was about to go out there and chop some wood. Oh, it was hysterical.
And like he was like visibly jarred by my appearance.
She came busting through the door saying, "Where's the jerky?"
Brought my saw. Oh my God, I was laughing about that all weekend.
No, but some of those things change, and that's a generational perspective.
Oh man.
All right, I'm very warm. I think this is a wrap, guys.
A wrap?
We had to have been talking for like an hour and a half.
We're not quite at an hour.
Not even close.
I feel like we're letting you off the hot seat a little bit.
No.
Just a little bit. But it is
There's
tough.
one more. You give one more.
No, it's tough,
and
right?
And then I'm going to start pleading the fifth.
Pleading the fifth.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's definitely...
So
hold on. So if we only got one, we each get one more question.
Okay, so stop that for a moment.
Okay.
In that space of 3 years, tell me how much you think you have learned from cradle to where you are today as far as what goes on in our industry. I know you know that there's a lot more to learn, and having been in this for a long period of time, every day you learn. Mm-hmm. But just from starting off as someone who's a complete blank canvas to today, how much do you think you've learned, and how much do you think that you can actually help other people?
I don't even know how to quantify that. A shitload.
A shitload.
I love it.
A shitload.
A lot.
Because
I mean, a lot. Like, there are certain days and certain weeks where when it's over, like I just go home and I have to watch like trash TV because my brain has no more capacity for information intake. Like it's the scary thing for me is like how hard it is to retain all of the stuff I learn if I'm not practicing it constantly. But yeah, it has been so much, and I think when I like at networking events and stuff, people used to be like, "Oh, like what all are you working on?" And it's like a lot, like so much. I don't know how to tell you all of these things. Like coming into this industry and not being siloed into one operation, like one asset class in one side of a transaction, working on, taking a strategic approach to office, industrial investment opportunities, understanding how, like, as a direct investor, you analyze an investment opportunity, like seeing the financial aspect of it, understanding what investors are looking for, and every investor is looking for something different, but understanding the value that different investors would attribute to different income producing assets, like, in addition to just, here's a 30-page lease. Understand what this means. I mean, it's been
Just that statement alone, okay? You've got 10 years of knowledge in a 3-year window, and probably more than that. It's incredible because of the breadth of what you've covered. It's an interesting
You guys are
thing.
just trying to, like, get me to crack and, like, shed a tear on the podcast.
No, I gave
Is
up on
the
that a
goal?
long time ago. I literally gave up on that.
He's lying. That is the side bet.
Oh, I just spit bourbon everywhere.
We officially have bourbon spit. No, I did tell
not
Kelsey
graceful.
today that you were going to cry on this podcast, but
No, your progress has been spectacular.
What the you thought I was going to cry, and then you're like, yeah, let's do it. I saw you giving her side eyes. Like,
No,
she
he
has no
didn't
idea
say
what's in
that.
store for her.
He didn't say
Thanks.
that. I said that.
no, I did say that.
God.
Only because, as I said to Michael on the way in, like, in the roller coaster of this business, you were definitely at the bottom in terms of a week or a month, whatever the case may be. But it's because you're wearing it so personally, even though as a team, we're not at the bottom. Like, things are really good. But yeah, personally, there's just, and we didn't get into every specific detail, like, and we're not going to. Just things that you wear really heavy on your shoulder, which is great in one sense, terrible in another, right? I think it's part of the business. But my question is,
I'm good. I'm ready for it.
I had given it up. You hang out with lots of other people 3 years in the business. 1 year in, 3 year in, 5 year in. And I don't mean hang out like go out and party. I just mean
Yeah, sometimes.
well, that too, because that's part of the business.
It's part of the business.
And because at the end of the day, and one thing people don't realize, and I don't think our clients really realize it, our relationships with our peers is very impactful for the outcome. I mean, we have strong relationships with people that I'm not interested in going to dinner with, but I have to keep a professional relationship with them because the outcome of our client's experience is dictated by the relationship that we might have with that landlord or that business owner or that other real estate agent. So it's a
That
And I would say,
that
I mean-
networking aspect of it. Okay, I'm going to speak a little bit longer in breadth than you.
yeah.
I have relationships that I talk to every day. What's going on in your market? What's going on, here? Tell me how you perceive this thing globally. To be able to pull from that,
Because it makes us better.
and those were relationships that were crafted 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, it's great for me too, because I mean, I actually like a lot of my peers in the industry. I do like to get dinner with them because they understand this. Like, trying to explain to one of my friends that, from high school that knows nothing about this industry, like, the ups and downs and the intricacies of this, that's, like, almost more exhausting than the work itself. So it's like the peers in the industry, when you can just kind of like go sit at a bar and stare into space and not really speak to each other and have a drink and just like there's like that mutual understanding of what this job entails and how demanding it can be at certain times. Like, I find that like camaraderie reassuring.
Yeah, because you're going both. Everybody's going through it together.
In the Pittsburgh market, I mean, the younger generation, especially in the real estate community, like, everyone has been like, at our like competitor firms, so to speak, super reassuring and kind, and so yeah, I find like a measure of comfort in that, and it's like it's almost like we're all in this together. Like, we know like there's ups and downs for everyone, and like even when things are like great,
Right.
you never want to say that they're great, because you've been on the other end of that conversation before when someone tells you how great everything's going and you're in the shit. So it's like that. I think that the younger commercial real estate community in Pittsburgh is something I never anticipated caring so much about, but it has been super helpful for my, like, as confidence. I mean, when I first got into this industry, I couldn't get some of the older folks in the community to email me back to save my freaking life. So I made it like my mission to go to all of these networking events and build that network so that I didn't feel as intimidated, and that helped to build confidence to where I'm no longer like, is it me?
Right.
It's like, no, that
Even though,
asshole just doesn't check his email.
hey, you actually did email me today and say, is it me?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you did. So, my question, then we're going to wrap. 3 years in, given your peer network, peer in this business, not peer across the country in all different walks of life, are you at the end of a very crappy week
I hope so.
and
Might
at
be
the
a
end of a crappy month? Do you feel like you're ahead of the game or behind?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. Probably behind, but I think that's just because I'm traditionally very hard on myself. Yeah, I don't know. I'm fidgeting a lot. I'm very nervous right now.
That wasn't the intent.
I feel like Dr. Oz right now.
Oh, Jesus. She went
I
there.
don't know.
That wasn't me, by the way.
In some respects, I feel like I'm ahead. Again, like the education component. Like, I feel like my understanding of this industry is probably like the intricacies and the inner workings. I feel like I may be ahead of some of my peers that have been in the industry for 3 years. But as far as like just like deals closed, I do feel behind. But again, like that's not how I measure success. Like, I think I measure my success in like the confidence I have and the relationships I'm building. And so I would say my confidence is like schmedium. and
Did you
I feel like
learn-
I'm good with the relationships I'm building.
This last week, month/year, did you learn something? Are you going to take something with it? Are you going to
Yeah.
put that into that circuit board that just said, okay, I got this one now. I see what happened. Maybe I can see it coming at me or something like that. Is that going to become
Yeah,
a part
but
of
I think-
Paige Myers?
Yeah, I've learned a lot of things, but every deal's different, every client's different, every scenario is different. So it's also like this industry is humbling, and just when you think you're like, oh, I just went through this scenario, I know exactly what to do. No, it's not the same. I'm
But-
trying really hard not to swear. And
But I
it's
think
very
that the
difficult.
lesson is that you don't know exactly what to do, but you know that something's coming.
Yeah.
The lesson is that
Like my spidey senses are getting better.
you use that word all the time, and it's
Who does?
The Spider-Man
the
reference is
spidey
lost on you.
senses. No, I get. He's my generation originally. No, it's just one of those things where you see things where, okay, I've experienced some of this before, and unfortunately, experience is a cruel teacher. It gives you the lesson first and the test later. Or test first and lesson later, whatever. It's the bourbon.
Yeah, I think you're beating yourself up. I think I tell every young person who ever asks me if they want to get into this business, when will they get it? I'm like, you might, maybe, sort of, kind of start to get it after 100 completed transactions. Maybe.
Okay, to translate that, 100 completed transactions.
Do I get half credit for
How
my
many
almost completed
How many
transactions?
things did you work on to get 100 completed transactions?
I don't even know.
Don't even tell me.
That's what we're.
Tell
that's
me when
what
I'm
this is all
older
about,
and can
right?
That's
handle
what the
it.
whole thing. No, it's
But
and
100 completed, executed client engagements, because we don't really talk about transactions here, but I think the universe out there just thinks in transactions. So I use that term like a Kleenex, like a tissue and a
but in
Kleenex.
transactions, though, I mean, that's everyone builds up to that. That you start a project, you start going through a project, and then when it terminates, it's kind of like it either was successful or it was something that didn't
Right.
happen. So it's the same kind of thing. It's just that there's an effort that goes into it.
But so if you have to get through 100 to even kind of have a clue,
Can't wait for next year.
can't wait for next year. And I would say, well, I won't even go there, but you need to be substantially more confident in yourself in the fact that of all the people I know in this business 3 years in this town, I mean, to say you're even remotely on the average scale versus on the behind scale, like, it's crazy. Like, you have seen so much in 3 years. I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. So,
But what you just
Okay.
went through with having a couple of things that just didn't happen, you experience that every day.
yeah.
I experience it every day. You know,
And
you
all
never,
three of them were the best things ever for the clients.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of
Right.
things.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not salty about it. Like,
But it sucks.
it sucks.
It sucks.
It's a high and a low.
Yeah, and I think you started the podcast with a great thing. Like, you can't have the highs too high and the lows too low. But I think that par for par, 3 years in, you've seen a lot, and it's pretty impressive.
But you will
And
never.
sorry we
Thanks,
picked
guys.
on you.
No, you
a little bit.
Bill me for this session later. That's a wrap.
Bill us?
No.
No,
Come on.
bill me
You will,
for the therapy session.
No.
You will
be
never
done.
stop
Can we please be
learning.
done?
I have never been so uncomfortable for such an extended period of time.
And I'm really.
I've
enjoying
gotta
this.
be so red. Okay.
It's the best podcast ever. Cheers.
Cheers. Good job.
That's a wrap.